Ampire. Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone. I am not in Arizona. I know most of the media contingent that follows around the Commanders are in Arizona. I am not. I flew back here Tuesday morning, and I've had a lovely afterglow week, without going to practice and having to hit up all my friends and say, would you see, would you see, would you see? But it's been a nice calm after the storm before we go out to Desert Storm for the Cardinals game.
I was going to say, like, you were just saying how tired you were yesterday. So this does ease up things a little bit. You still have to fly to the West Coast, but
big thumbs up to that one, because next week, if I was tired this week, that plane back that lands at 4 a.m, can't wait to talk to you Monday morning. Oh boy. That's
yes.
Gonna be something. But then we basically don't travel for a month. So, because I think we got the only game we're traveling to is Baltimore. So we don't travel for a month. So be smooth sailing from there and, off to the Super Bowl, off to the races. That's what we're doing these days.
Oh God, you're already talking about that. Jeez.
I want to talk about, I rewatched a lot. I watched our game. I've started watching the Cardinals. I'll spend a lot more time talking about the Cardinals tomorrow. Keim's going to be on in a little bit. So we'll talk about them there and talk about how, what's the mood on the ground now that they're everybody's favorite team. So, get their sense of how are they dealing with everybody loving them. But I want to bring up this because it fits here and it fits somewhere else too. In rewatching the offense, I think this is, I think Cliff Kingsbury put it really well the other day when he said, Jayden Daniels is operating beyond expectation. And I think that's the right way to put this, because in rewatching it, the buy-in is there, and literally everybody on the field could get the ball at any given time. There's no favored status for anybody yet. Even after last week when it was, where's Terry? Please get him off the milk carton. They found ways to get him the ball, but I don't think it was let's force it there. They threw it to him when it was appropriate to throw it to him. And they threw it maybe on places on the field where he could have an impact, as opposed to what was happening in week 2. And the running back rotation, which obviously is going to be messed up without Eckler this week, they just keep going like they're going. Ertz never saw the ball in the first half. Didn't matter. Got it back-to-back plays in the second half. 4th down plays go to Luke McCaffrey. 3rd and long plays go to De'Ami Brown. Everybody eats, baby. It's wolf season. Everybody eats. Can you believe that?
I mean, I've liked the 4th quarter of the last 2 games very much so because of this, because they've gone to players that the defense has kind of forgotten about. I go to the Giants game, 2 huge passes to Noah Brown to finish that game, where we didn't really even know if he was going to be a part of the offense that day. He ends up delivering kind of the 2 daggers that beat New York at home. Then against the Bengals, they went to De'Ami Brown 2 times in a row to basically the same play where he cut inside to get 8 to 10 yards a clip. And then same thing, they forgot about Zach Ertz. And Zach Ertz caught 3-4 balls on that last drive. And then, I like the rotation here of how they're kind of we're going to play a kind of normal offense for the first 3 quarters. And then we're going to go to the guys you forgot about because they can all play. I've really liked the 4th quarter, though, because I think that's where everyone's going to kind of keep buying in of, hey, we're going to lean on you maybe in some of these clutch drives. So it keeps everyone engaged, too. I think that's important.
Yeah, I think so. It's also the benefit of everything being new. When you have that, there is no favored status. The offensive coordinator has no favored status. The quarterback obviously doesn't. I think this stuff happens naturally for everybody who plays fantasy. Watch the first couple weeks, see who the favored target is. You learn that about certain players. In my draft, I took a flyer on Jayden Reed in Green Bay because I'm he might be Jordan Love's guy. Who knows? I don't know who Jayden's guy is yet. And maybe that's kind of part of the magic here so far, because the ball's just going wherever Jayden decides it needs to go to, or through reads, which is the way it's supposed to be. And that really, to me, is beyond ahead of the curve. I mean, I think that's that and the buy-in, because what I saw this past week, they mauled them up front. I mean, absolutely mauled them. The pressure from Cincinnati came on blitzes, not because Hendrickson was beating them regularly, not because they were able to generate a rush. They weren't. And then in the run game, just there were so many examples of just bulldozing type blocks, hugely aggressive plays. Like, I don't think it's sustainable to ask the offense to carry them like this in perpetuity. Like, the defense has to get a lot better, but this has been beyond a better start on that side of the ball than I even possibly. I'm like, this guy's not a rookie. He'll be pretty good, but this is beyond. And it's not just him. Like, there's a complete buy-in across the board. And now that they got Terry involved too, it's a 100% buy-in, because I think for a week there, not that McLaurin's a complainer or someone who's like demanding the ball. I think he genuinely knows, he's like, I can make impacts. And it's frustrating when I don't get the chance to make impacts. And I think that's all he was trying to get across. And then all of us are going, well, if you're going to have big plays down the field, it's going to be him and nobody else. Like, give me a break. Who else is it going to be? So when are you going to incorporate that? And like, think about the first 3 weeks. The first week, they had no intermediate passing game. That changed in week 2, where that was the profile of the intermediate passing game. They hadn't connected on a deep pass the whole year, and boom, it's there in week 3. The fast learning of this, the adjustment of this, and I know they're all 3 different opponents, but like, whatever their weakness, or they can't do this or they can't do that, it's like fixed in a minute. So it's been amazing to see so far. And it is, I keep wanting to say, so far. And that's where we are.
I think it's something we talked about really early in the summer, or really early in the off season, was let's see what these coaches do in terms of things we just haven't seen before. Halftime adjustments, improving week to week. Are we going to see the same mistakes week in and week out? And 3 weeks in, as you said, so far, the answer is no. Like, we are seeing improvements on all those areas. One of the ones that was really funny, Joe Buck basically had a announcer's jinx on Monday, where they hadn't had a penalty yet on offense. Right. And then he mentioned it, and they had it in the fourth quarter. But like, same thing, they effed up a million times against the Giants every single time they got to the red zone. We didn't see that until the fourth quarter. You know, like, things like that are what I think is actually like almost just as important as Jayden developing. It's the fact that like there's just a professional operation happening here.
I try not to believe in that stuff. However, the other day on my board, I had written, the Commanders have never in their history started a season with 3 straight games without a turnover. And after the first half went by, I stared at that note probably 50 times and said, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it until we get to the end of the game and try to remember to say it. Because, like, I don't want to say it. And then it happened. And then I become the idiot who jinxed them, even though I don't know that I believe in that stuff. But that was one where I was looking at it the whole time. I wrote down, I'm like, second half. I wrote second half, and I wrote it just in case, you know. And when it got to like the third, fourth quarter, I'm like, do I actually say this? And I went, nope, I'm not going to do it. So I held back.
No, you can't do it. John Walton had a good one yesterday. He mentioned a shutout with the Devils goalie, and he let in a goal like right away. So, you know, like, it's real. It's real. So don't test fate.
We've had, 3 weeks of, not since World War II, X. Like, I've been saying that. The big one is this, and so far, I can't imagine it happening anytime soon. But who knows with this weird year, if the defense ever turns it around or they catch the right team at the right time that isn't scoring any points. They still haven't shut anybody out since 1991. So that's the one I'm dying to call, to go, that one's over too. And I think it's all over if that one happens, because then you're literally hearkening back to the best season in franchise history. If that one happens, all the things that are happening, I think we're all kind of going, all right, what is this? Is this what I think it is? Like, is this happening to us? Like, is this happening? And if that one occurs at some point this year, and based off the early returns, it won't, but like,
right.
it does, then all of a sudden it's like the ghosts of 91 are screaming at us that things are different now.
It ain't happening this year. I mean, maybe a year, 2 years. It ain't happening this year.
Well, if I told you at the beginning of the season, they're not going to punt for 2 weeks, would you believe that? Because I wouldn't have believed that.
The percentage chance of that happening is higher than them shutting someone out. I would have said that.
The no punts, no turnovers thing, like we cited it yesterday. Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, they all did that like once.
Right.
This guy did it his first 3 games. So I don't know what I don't know anymore. All right. Speaking of everybody eats, Josh Allen had to clarify that when he said in Buffalo now, because they're off to a great start and they're 3-0, that everybody eats there, that he was not specifically talking about anybody else who doesn't happen to be there anymore, even though, give me a break, how is Stefan not the John Wall in this comparison? We've lived this, Buffalo. So here's a little hint for you, Maniac and Degenerate Al. Go look up our shows from a few years back when John got hurt and all of a sudden we had everybody eats down here. And they're going to say, yeah, but we win a lot and you don't. And I would say, you're right. That is actually true. However, we know what this means. He could try to walk it back. It's not true. And you know what? Like, it's working for us and for them. Maybe they needed to move on from some people who were established and worthy. Why am I not getting the ball people? So maybe they needed it. And so far, it's beyond worked out for them. They're the highest scoring team in the NFL right now.
This was a storyline that started to develop late in their training camp. I was reading up on this, and it's a storyline that I've latched onto. Is all the beat writers up there started with this is going to be addition by subtraction. Like, they saw it in preseason and in training camp that all of a sudden he was actually like running the offense instead of forcing the ball to Diggs. He clarified, but everyone knew exactly what he was saying after the game on Monday.
He couldn't help it.
And dude, you don't have to clarify. You're dropping 40 every week now. Like, everyone gets it. Like, if you're right, it doesn't matter what you say. He can clarify this to not have beef with Diggs, but the fact of the matter is the numbers don't lie. They're killing teams these days, and it's because they're not having to force the ball to him. He's not as bad, but he was making Will Levis decisions. He was making stupid decisions, and he was too good to do that last year a little bit. And now he's not making them, and all of a sudden he's the front runner to win MVP. You can say that you're running the offense differently. I have no problem with that. We see this all the time. Sometimes a player just doesn't fit with a scheme, with an offense, with a quarterback sometimes. It's okay to just say, we're running a different scheme now. I like spreading the ball around. The joke up there is it's called Josh and Friends, because you can't pinpoint whoever he's going to throw the ball to because he's such a goofball. So it's Josh Allen and friends. That's what the offense is now.
I mean, if we're really going back to 1991, then it will be Commanders Bills in the Super Bowl. So if we're really, really, really going back. But, it's funny, like, and this is where, again, it's 3 games with Jayden. Like, this year read for Buffalo as just a reboot year. Not that they'd be bad, because he's great. And because he's great, they're going to be good. And they've won a lot. But when you make changes like the ones they had on both sides of the ball, you just assume that it's not going to be the same. But when you have an all-world quarterback, you kind of just never know if it clicks right. And that's the hope here, that like we've got someone who's going to be in that caliber and in that class for a long time. So when we go through the highs and lows of this roster looks really ready to compete and win, to we just missed, or we've got to make some weird decisions, or I don't know, I think it's just time to move on from X really famous player who's made a lot of great plays, you survive. And in the case of Buffalo, and it's early, they've beyond survived by it. And I agree. Sometimes you are better off. And I like Stefan. He's great. He's a malcontent, but he's great. But he's not the difference between you winning and losing a Super Bowl. That quarterback is. So, it's so far it's working for them. And, I'm happy for them because, this is a weird year. Like, I don't feel juggernauts like across the board. Like, the Chiefs look great again, but even they have strange weaknesses. Like Kelsey isn't really involved yet. They've had a couple injuries. They've won all 3 of their games, but barely.
Every game with them, it's been a play. They're 3-0 because of three plays. I mean, literally at the end of every game, the Bengals turned it over. That turned into a score. The Ravens honestly should have beat them at the last second.
Yeah.
And the Falcons really had 2 chances to beat them. I mean, I'm not trying to take it away, but
missed bad call in the end zone away from maybe winning. Right, maybe.
Right, but I try not to
PI in the end zone, so that there would have been a chance. They would have had a chance to win.
Yeah, and I don't want to take that away because good teams win those games. Like I think that matters, but
and they typically get better as the season goes along, which is the scary part for them. Typically, they get real good in November, December, and then they become practically unbeatable. So that's the scary part of a 3-0 start for them, that they're not in a hole. But again, like across the board, I don't see juggernauts. And I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, but I'm more and more am really buying Detroit in the NFC, especially with the injuries that are occurring around the NFC to San Francisco and Los Angeles, and Dallas looks off and Philly doesn't look strong, at least right now. And they're getting injured. So like the prediction of, I don't think there's juggernauts in the NFC, I believe is starting off to come true, which means it's open, but Detroit's looked really good. I got to watch, obviously they played Arizona last week. So I watched a lot of them. They dominated them. I mean, that score could have been bad. And this is off of Arizona toying with the Rams, almost beating Buffalo, and Detroit just punished them. They have the look and the feel of it to me. So I'm bought in that. I think Detroit right now is the best team in the NFC. I'm bought in on it.
Just one more note on Detroit too. We're so close for Jameson Williams being like an absolute beast. Like Goff it just keeps missing him. Like every week I tune into one of their games on Red Zone or whatever. And every time I see like a huge overthrow where he's running down the field and no one's covering him. So we're like so close to them unlocking him. And then it's going to do wonders for Amon-Ra St. Brown. So yeah, they're right there too. Yeah.
Okay. Tonight, car wreck time. My favorite kind of games. Stephen A will be edge of his seat, wearing a silly cowboy hat, hoping that he gets to make the video that America wants. Cowboys have had a rough week. They're getting made fun of. They're screaming, get off our bandwagon. CeeDee Lamb, after getting $8 trillion, has terrible body language. Jerry is full on, and I can't believe I'm saying this. He needs to stop doing these appearances on sports radio, because I don't know if you've noticed, but it's become garbled Trump speak when he goes on. It goes in tangents. It doesn't really make any sense. He's a Hannibal Lecter reference away from being full on sounding crazy. Like when they this radio station did an amazing thing. I think he goes on both of them.
Yeah, he does.
One of them did a poll, who's at fault? And it was like 83% Jerry Jones, right? So they asked him to answer that. And he admitted, he goes, you can blame me. That's fine. And then if you read this, I need to hear it. If you read this answer, it's nonsensical word salad garbage of like, if people give the information with the intent, and the intent comes around, and I was like, what is this guy talking about? So like, has he not only lost his fastball, but like, I think he needs to, just reading this, seeing what they've done, he needs to turn this stuff over to somebody, and soon and fast, or else it's going to keep nosediving the wrong way. And I mean, honestly, where are the make the Cowboys great again hats? I mean, they got to get those going down there.
I thought you were going to tell me.
So tonight's my favorite kind of game, because they're supposed to win, but it's on the road. Everyone just perceives, well, they're going to win because they have to. I don't know about that, because I saw the Giants 2 weeks ago, and Neighbors is the real deal. Jones looks better. Their line is better than it's been. And Dallas's offense goes through these funks where they can't score. This is going to be hilarious when the Giants win tonight. And it's all for the reaction afterward, because their locker room's going to be weird. They're going to be sad, angry. Somebody's going to say something crazy. Stephen A's cackling at them. They're the only thing on. It's really going to be amazing.
I thought you were going to tell me Jerry was saying that the people in East Rutherford, New Jersey, were eating the dogs and cats. I thought that's what you were going with.
It's not far. We're We're a 1-4 start away from that, I think. That's what I think. Right now, it's references to Hannibal Lecter.
Got it. Okay. Fair enough. No, I'm with you. They are so close to teetering. And if it's this team, if it's the Giants that takes them out, it's going to be just great because it's really the one that sets them over the edge because the Giants at the moment are probably the team no one's afraid of in the East. Yes, they won a game last week against the Browns. And I would say with them, if Jones goes off, I think that's what sets them off. Like, if they run the ball and like the defense steps up, I don't think anyone cares. But if it's that dumb essentially that beats them, I think that's what's going to make them lose their mind. So yeah, if it's him,
For years we haven't had really good teams, but there was nothing more infuriating than losing to him because we're like, he doesn't beat anybody. And like, go look at Quinn's record against him. It's like 6-0, and they beat them like aggregate score 41-8. You know, like it's ridiculous numbers. So if they go out there and Devin Singletary runs for 125 and he throws 2 touchdown passes to Neighbors and they lose, oh man, it'd be amazing.
You were basking in the afterglow on Monday. Des Bryant fired off a tweet and was like, Dan Quinn, great coach, Dallas, SMH. Like, that was the tweet. Like, even he was already starting to like, this is this guy. They might have let him walk out the building and he might have been the stability. Like,
they were, I think, I don't know. I'd have to ask the Dallas people for sure. But 2 years ago, it seemed that they were real close to elevating him.
Yeah.
Over McCarthy. Like it felt like, remember, they protected him. They wouldn't let him leave.
Yep. Right.
So we'll see. I think the Giants are going to win. Because it feels like the all-time car wreck. Like it's happening, you know, like, but we'll see.
Did you see the nugget on Al Michaels, by the way, on this game? Schefter tweeted it out.
20th Cowboys-Giants game. Yeah.
20th Cowboys-Giants game. First one was in 84, I want to say. And then he said he also called the first game ever at AT&T. So, I mean, just stacking up the Cowboys-Giants rivalry there. So good on Al for that.
Keim is up next. Very much to show his games occurred with that. All right, time for our weekly visit with ESPN's John Keim Report, who is in Arizona with the team. I want to read you a couple things. Let's see. FanDuel puts out a tweet today. You can have one quarterback for the next 10 years. Who do you take, Jayden Daniels or CJ Stroud? We've had, let's see, Dale Earnhardt weighed in, Aaron Rodgers weighed in, Devontae Adams weighed in. So you're with the team. How are they handling we have this incredible quarterback and everything's on the up and up and everybody loves them all of a sudden?
I think even like Bobby Wagner on Wednesday somebody started, I think it was JP started asking him about going down a road where he's like, he's like, you've been with Hall of Famers, you've been with this. He goes, we're not comparing this yet. Like, and JP kind of said, oh, no, it's not about that. But it's really about like the start. He goes, it's an amazing start. Let him finish the story for the season first, right? And then we'll get into all that. So I think they're extremely excited about the start. We all know that. You're around the team. We know that. I think they're excited about the future because of what they've seen, not just in these first 3 games, but everything since he's arrived has gotten them excited. These first 3 games are showing everybody else what I think they've been feeling behind the scenes, watching him in practice, watching him in the meeting rooms, knowing the work he puts in. So I think there's a lot of excitement, but they also know it's only 3 games as far as into his career. So there's a long way to go, but I think that's also part of it, Bram, because when you talk to guys like, Terry McLaurin, et cetera, they know that there's another gear that Jayden Daniels can get to in his game as a passer. He's just starting. So I think that's also what excites them. But, the other part is we're interviewing Jayden Daniels outside the locker room, or outside the weight room at Arizona State University. And Bobby Wagner's walking by and starts to chide him and just kind of say some, just try to rattle him as he's answering questions. And then the linemen walk by and they're kind of razzing him from afar and all that. So I think there's also, while all that success and excitement is going on, I think there's still a realization for that, or not a realization, but treating him, like a rookie, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Where you want to have fun with them and keep it light because, I think, again, they realize there's a long way to go. But I could go on for a long time about that one, Bram, but I think that's kind of how they're handling it.
It's also a sign they like him.
Very much so.
We also saw this with Jason Campbell. I remember this when they first got Jason Campbell. He was really, really well liked in the locker room. And he would do these press conferences and they'd run by and they'd call him Lionel Richie or they'd make fun of him. But it was because they liked him,
Right,
and
correct.
Don't ever undersell that.
No.
It's a big deal that the people in the locker room like him. And it's very clear that they do. I think it's just the way he conducts himself. He's humble. And then I thought this week would be interesting because we are getting, is he the next great quarterback from all circles? Because it was the game on Monday night and everybody saw it and they made a play that was as big a deal of any play that we've had in years around here. And so obviously it's going to get a tremendous amount of attention, and how they handled it was going to be an interesting watch this week.
Oh, for sure. And by the way, I got to praise you for that call because I saw it. Obviously, I'm not listening during the game, but your call, that touchdown. But I also love, Bram, first of all, the excitement in your voice. It's so fun to hear you like that. But also there's a dramatic pause before you know if he caught the ball or not. I think that there's if you watch it, it just heightens the excitement or the anxiety, I think, for a fan listening to it. But I just thought it was awesome. So, props to you for that call. And anyways, but I kind of forgot the question. Now.
How are they going to handle the week?
Oh, okay.
That's really it was an open question. How are they going to handle the week? Because it's happening fast.
Right. And I think this is, again, I go back to Bobby Wagner. So he said he liked the way he's handling it. So I said, well, what do you mean by that? What are you seeing? He said, well, when I come to the facility, I see him working. I see him watching film. And when you ask Jayden Daniels about it, he's like, it was just another game. We have a game this week, basically, that paraphrasing. So I think the way you handle it is by doing your job and continuing to do your job. And I think Dan Quinn has set a good tone for that, and that making sure that approach is taken. They don't have to sit there and tear apart his game. Maybe some other quarterbacks here in the past, they overrated certain parts of where they were at in their development. I don't think he does that. And, Dan Quinn will always point out, there are more things that can be done. There are more plays to be made. Start incorporating this in your game. We saw him keeping his eyes up the field last week more than he did in the first two games. So there's growth that they see, but the growth, and as I think Daniels would be the first to tell you, the growth doesn't happen if you stop or change your approach. So I think that's what they like about this is you're not, but yeah, here's the other thing, Bram, and I think, Dan Quinn said this too about, somebody asked him about momentum. Is basically momentum is a week to week thing in the NFL. If you're a good team, it's not momentum, it's you're a good team. That's so right. Do they have momentum this week? Sure. But it's a short week playing on the road against a team whose defense has gotten better and who has an explosive quarterback. So that momentum could be stunted in 1 week if you don't go out there and improve. And I think that's part of the task here. But I think for Daniels, he's not, I've talked to so many people around him. He's not wired to to take his foot off the gas in terms of how he does things. That's why I think that regardless of what happens this week, that approach won't change. And it's why he's going to have a good career.
I would go back to also, this was pointed out, I remember back in the spring, it might've been his first press conference or sometime, soon after he was drafted. And somebody asked him something to the effect of when did you know, you have a really great quarterback? And he goes, watch the Florida game. And the Florida game is the one where he had just a ridiculous amount of yards and touchdowns and all these things. And that didn't derail his season from there. He continued to get better. I think that's been one of the things about him. And it's funny when interacting with him, I don't know him well, but I've, gotten to interact with him a little bit. And there's just part of it. And I like this about him. when you ask him like, how did you do this or how'd you do that? He's just like, I don't know, man. I'm just playing. It's all instinctual to him. Like, he's just like, I can't explain to you why I'm good at this. All I can tell you is I work really hard and I don't take anything for granted. And I know I'm a good athlete, but like, you know, at the same time, there's a lot of good athletes out here and they don't all win, but he seems to be doing it so far. So it's been great.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because it's funny you brought up the Florida game, because I actually wrote about that last week or leading into the Monday night game, an oral history of that game and like what he showed in that game and all that he had showed and why he got to that point, right? Like the work he had put in, et cetera. And that's why, you know, that's why you don't worry, is this going to go to his head or anything like that? Because he puts in so much work into it that it's paid off for him to this point. And I don't think he's someone who's going to forget the journey that he's taken to get to this point. Going back to when he was 10 years old and starting to work with quarterback coaches, et cetera. But the other thing is too, and there are just things that, here's the other thing, Bram, too. And this is what I've always kind of appreciated about what he'll say. When you ask him about like his role here, he's like, I'm just 1/11th. You know, my role is just to do my job. Now, sometimes that job means doing things like he did Monday night, throwing that touchdown pass while being drilled and dropping in a dime to Terry McLaurin. But to him, like, that's my job. And so I think when you embrace it that way and you don't put yourself above what's like Jeremy McNichols' job on that play was to pick up the blitzer, and he did a hell of a job. That play doesn't happen if McNichols whiffs on the block, right? So I think for Daniels, okay, that was his job. This is my job, is to complete this pass. So I think there's that mentality will serve him well, and it will, I think, you know, protect or inoculate him from. Well, you never know where things are going to go, right? But the way, you know, what I know about him, what you hear about him, it will inoculate him from ever feeling like he's above things. He's not going to have. I don't think he's going to be telling teammates he can get certain things from the owner like maybe other quarterbacks have done in the past.
Yeah. Last thing on this. Thank you for your thoughts about the call. I had a blast doing it. And for the first time in my career, I got memed because in the middle of it, I like stuck my tongue out at one of the Bengals fans. You know, it was like, I broke character for a minute there, but actually, like, I never know what I'm going to get on the road with the fans that are in front of us. And sometimes they're real jerks and they're flipping me off the whole time. But these guys were actually great. The people that were sitting, we were having a great time, like kind of going back and forth throughout the game when it was, especially when the Bengals were coming back. And so like, that was all in good fun. And so that was really great. But I think it also, for me, you know, just kind of being there in that moment, being fortunate enough to call that, like it was, and people have asked me this all week, like, was that the best game and play you've called since you've been calling? And I said, yes. And I'm like, because there's been a lot of great moments. Like Terry's catch in Indianapolis was incredible. The comeback in Atlanta was incredible. The playoff game where Heineke dove for the pylon was incredible to be a part of that stuff. The Monday night game where they beat the Eagles and they were undefeated. That was awesome to be part of all that. It was great. But this one's different because it feels like the beginning to me. Correct. And I don't think I'm overstating it. And I think that's why everybody exploded with the excitement, because we're not sure what we have here right now, but it feels like for the first time in a really long time, we got something we can get behind that's going to be really good. And it's not even that I feel it. I know it. Like I just know it. I don't want to put pressure on them either, but I just know it. I think that's why everybody's reacting the way they are to it, because they all feel that too. Like this is happening right now. Hopefully it'll continue.
It was not a fluke. And, you know, it's funny because, you know, we've talked and like, there hasn't been a minute when we're watching him, when you're around him, you think like, oh, he might not be good. And you don't, the question that I always have is how good will he be? That's always been my question. And I say that we've both been around a long time and you see what failure or success or what it should look like, right? What should success look like? What should be the work being put into it? And when you see that and you hear stuff, and then you watch him on the practice field and you're seeing what he's doing now, was he perfect? No. And he's going to have some games where he's not as good. I mean, nobody can play like that every time. But I think, like, that's what I say. I think what he did is reveal himself to the NFL world too. And he was a special game. And I also thought going into the game, Bram, that guys like him, do special things when the stage is like that. And so what he did is like, yeah, I kind of thought I didn't think he would do that. I certainly thought he could do that because he's just wired differently. The other thing, going back to that play, and the reason why that play stands out too to me is for multiple reasons. One, the throw is perfect. He's getting hit as he throws. He can't even follow through. But also before the play is snapped, you're talking about this on the radio. Like there was confusion on that play with other players not knowing where to line up. And the way he handles that was just with a lot. And, it's funny because Dan Quinn says they're trying to find words other than poise, right? But it was so much poise and calmness for a guy in his third NFL game. He was completely in the moment and knew what had to be done.
And in control.
Right. And so
like McCaffrey's walking over the line, clearly needs some direction. Ertz is looking back too. They've got to snap the ball. They do. He knows exactly where the ball is going.
Right.
This is not a rookie in his third game. He's never looked like a rookie the whole time. Never.
No. And that's what's impressive. And again, there will be moments where he's going to throw an interception at some point. He's going to lose a fumble at some point. He's going to have a bad game at some point. That happens, but I don't think it's going to be like, oh, is this? No, I think, but you're right. Like, I don't view those situations like, well, it's because he's a rookie. I think I think what we've seen so far is a guy who's handled his position very well. And there are things that he can grow with, but in terms of rookie, like the rookiness aspect, Bram, to me is like evolving your game in terms of keeping your eyes up the field, or maybe, not looking away from a play because you have a predetermined read, right? Maybe so those are things you can grow on. But where the rookie aspect you do not see in terms of handling the operation. That to me is what really stands out, because that goes back to that word poise and calmness, serenity, whatever you want to say it. That's what it is.
All right. Last thing, all the joy in what he's doing, how the offense has performed, the crazy metrics, like they haven't punted in 2 weeks and all that stuff. I haven't said more times in the last couple of weeks, not since World War II, fill in the blank. It's been a really crazy week with stuff like that. But the defense has been bad, bad. To be blunt about it, really bad. Pass defense, rush defense. Their pass defense is as susceptible as it was a year ago, if not worse. They've given up 9 touchdown passes in 3 games. Like the rush defense can't stop anybody right now. So what's just your general takeaway about what's going on that side of the ball?
That's a bad combination when you're giving up touchdown passes and can't stop the run. So and I haven't been able to finish all this up, but I'm watching some of Detroit play Arizona last week, and they did a really good job against the Cardinals offense. And I'm watching the defensive front and watching them defend the run in particular. I'm like, I don't see that the same thing here for sure. Like Detroit's defense is really good. So this is what a good defense looks like. They're filling gaps. They're tackling well. They're where they're supposed to be. And when I'm watching this defense defend the run, I don't feel like, and they're also playing, more importantly, and I asked Dan Quinn about this the other day, but they're playing at a certain speed when the ball is snapped. I don't see that here, right? I don't see them playing at the speed they need to. And Quinn, I think Quinn would agree with that and said, they're going to get there. They're not there yet. They're going to get there. So they keep saying that. So you have to say, okay, let's see where it goes. But right now they're playing poorly. And in the run defense, sometimes sometimes the tackles are getting double teamed a lot and nobody's playing off that well enough. Or the tackles aren't making plays when they have those chances, or somebody gets out of their, they're rushing, they're trying to get upfield to get the passer and they're getting too wide, but it's a run and now there's a big gap. And so there's just a multitude of errors or issues that pop up. And is it just a matter of time together, or is it just who they are? And I think it's, in some cases, like the corners, we knew the corners were going to have some troubles this year. I didn't like that they put them on an island against Jamar Chase a few times. That's an automatic go-to, right? And, and then you got to switch things up, et cetera. But so there's certain things there. You say like, how much of it is, them getting to know what their guys can do? How much of it is, the players need to be better and then, or they're getting used to the scheme, whatever. Maybe it's all of that, but they have to play better. And not just for, okay, can contend for the playoffs. I mean, every team wants to make the playoffs, But just to build this program right, you've got to know that you've got some guys there that are worth building around. And how many guys we know on offense, you can start to see the guys that you want to build around. How many guys on defense are of that caliber right now?
It's a good question. All right. I'll see you out there in Arizona. Thanks.
All right, Bram. Thank you.
All right. Be right back. Bram, watch the show. ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Here is a surefire sign that, like, your league is taking a jump because the WNBA is getting a tremendous amount of attention. I think this is a really bad time of year to have their playoffs. It's because of the Olympic break, but because we're in the middle of football season, so everything's going to get overshadowed. But here's the surefire sign in my world that things have changed. Because I have, like everybody, a couple of friends that when something happens, you get the phone call right after it happens. And this is the first time in my life that I got one after a WNBA result from someone who hate watches Caitlin Clark and was like, I told you. He was like, and I'm like, are you serious? Like, you're this wound up about her? And he's been going on for months. He's been Team Angel Reese. Team bully her, team she's a whatever. He's one of those. He's like, I don't get it. He's one of the I don't get it with her people, and everyone needs to stop coddling her and pretending she's Tiger Woods. But to me, it was just a sign of, wow, they got you. Like, they totally got you that you're calling me to pull Stephen A. Smith on Caitlin Clark today. I was like, wow, okay.
That's a lot of energy for somebody that had a really good rookie season. Like, I would stop that now. Just sit back and enjoy how she plays. Don't hate on her. But yeah, she's bounced. But I mean, here's the thing. What's funny with her? It only took her half a season to catch up. Like, not even half a season to catch up. And all of a sudden her numbers are insane already. So, I mean, watch out. They're going to be contenders soon enough.
I do think, though, there is merit to the vibrancy of a good sports league is there are people that dislike the Stars. Like, I think on some level, like, I've been the whole, like, y'all need to just be real thankful to her because I don't know why everybody loves her so much, but they do. And your attendance is different. Your ratings are different, which means everybody's going to get paid more. Y'all need to shut the you-know-what up because, like, you need to cut this out because she is the golden goose. Stop trying to kill it. But if you're going to have a real vibrant league, there's got to be people out there that don't like Pat Mahomes. Like, it's the only way this works is there has to be people who don't like the Stars too. And they got it because I'm telling you, Team Angel Reese called me up last night, had his cowboy hat on and was laughing at her like he was Stephen A. Smith. It was really amazing.
I mean, sports and WWE cross way more than people think. You need a hero and a villain. That's simply how the world works. And it makes people way more excited or way more hyped up if they can love something, or in some cases, if they can hate something. That is actually just as important as actually liking whoever you're watching too.
The all-time, what was it? It was from his book, Howard Stern, and it turned into the movie. And I can't remember. It was a great movie. I can't remember about his career. And one of the key moments was the like executives at whatever radio network he was at the time was like, the people who say they love you, like, listen for this amount of time. And the people who say they hate you, listen for double the amount of time.
Yeah.
He's like, and they say they hate you.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
So you're winning.
Private Parts, I believe, is what what you're referencing. Yes.
Let's see. Congratulations, Derrick Rose, on a fine career. He was the youngest MVP winner ever, and then went through a rash of injuries that should never happen to anybody. And you know what? The fact that it's 2024 and he was still playing through all of it, and in some cases relatively well, mainly as a reserve. Congratulations to you. I mean, that's a lot of resilience, because I could imagine that there were a million times he probably wanted to quit. And so that's pretty, I think it's incredible, because he won this award 13, 14 years ago, and he's retiring now. So that's incredible that he hung in there that long.
I put it D Rose as maybe the biggest modern what if. I mean, to show it, to win an MVP that early in his NBA career, to win it in Chicago, who was begging for any kind of, savior after MJ. He's one of the biggest what ifs maybe of all time. But the fact that he was so good that he eked out a career for over a decade after he was banged up, essentially, all the credit to him. That takes a lot of mental fortitude. And the fact that he was still around, even the last couple of years was amazing. He's one of those guys that, like, for people my age, like in their 30s, when he was on, there was no one more popular than him. I mean, he was transcending things. Then when he got hurt, that was pretty tragic. So good on him to not be like chronically hurt, that he could still play.
I can't go today without really giving you the floor for this, which is, this is the last start of Patrick Corbin. The Nationals play the Royals today. They have one series after this. Patrick Corbin's contract mercifully will come to an end in about a week. And he has, it's among the worst, right, ERAs of a starter ever.
He's been the worst pitcher over the last 5 years. He's been the worst pitcher.
And they're paying him, I don't know, 30-something million a year.
A lot of money. Yeah.
This is also for everybody who covers this team closely, the Sverlugas of the world, this is the moment where they get to yell at the learners and go, you're not paying anybody anything anymore, like for reals. So, write a check. So this is a big day. It's a big day for everybody because, some teams in big markets, they eat a big contract and they just move on and sign somebody else. This one hasn't been doing that in recent years as they reset. And now we get to say goodbye to him, say goodbye to that money, say goodbye to that excuse, if it's been one, to go pay for some players that can have an impact here.
Two parts here that I'll get in. One, Barry literally wrote a column yesterday about how Patrick Corbin, his best attribute was taking the ball and just going and pitching, which I was like, Barry, that's what they pay him to do. So like, that is what
I show up here and do a radio show every day.
So, and of course it's only written how Barry, like it is of course only written how Barry could write it though. So, there's a little bit of Boz in there, but here's what I always, and this is why I've never freaked out about Corbin. Has he been terrible? Yeah, 100%. I'll acknowledge it. But how many times do we say, hey, if they sign that guy and he helps win a championship, who cares what happens afterwards? Well, that's who he was. In 2019, they don't win the World Series without him being one of the best starters in baseball that year, without him being one of the best relievers and starters during the 2019 run. They don't win without him. And I kind of fell into that category of, well, we don't win a World Series without him. Thank you. And these next couple years of the contract, if they suck this bad, I'm still going to look at 2019. I can acknowledge both things. So happy trails, Patrick Corbin. We wouldn't have won it without you. The last 5 years have been rough, though. We can acknowledge all of that.
Yes. Goodbye, sir. Thank you for your service. And I'm more into the let's look ahead, and Mark and company. I don't want to even hear, I know you don't speak to us. I don't want to hear a whiff of an excuse about money now because he's off the books. So let Rizzo cook a little bit, please, this winter. All right.
There's one thing I'll add on this too. Jeff Passan was on with Tony yesterday, and Tony just asked him about CJ, about Abrams, and just to like finish this out of like a new era or whatever. Passan said, I haven't heard whether he's going to get traded, but I had executives calling me yesterday asking what I thought about him. So like there could be a shakeup that happens if executives are calling them. So I'll just say that, like, do they trade him for a big contract that's already out there or something like that? I'm just throwing that one out there. That's all.
We'll revisit that in about a week. We'll revisit that soon. All right. Talk to you tomorrow. Bram wants to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.